I'm not so sure about that background. I mean, it's quite spooky, Jeremy. It really is.
Right, Richard Tice is my mate. Change it back right now. Forget Halloween. It's gone. Listen,
Anyway, Jeremy,
come on, just get.
Jeremy,
No, I'm reforming the back. Okay, can I just point out something? I got married,
Jeremy,
and you've been on holiday. Where'd you get that tan from?
Well, I couldn't possibly comment. What I can say is we've got to work out how we're going to get 11 million views in this interview. I mean, because we're all jealous.
What you mean by saying concrete grows or something like that?
Something
or
like
Richard
that.
Tice got a suntan from Venezuela and got back without going into quarantine. You look very well, my friend. You okay?
Well, I'm, just getting ready for the trials and tribulations ahead because, I think we've got to demonstrate to the country, frankly, that there is an alternative to this con-socialist government. I mean, it's just quite extraordinary, this budget yesterday.
It was, and I want to talk to you about many things. Let's start, if we can, with what I started the show with, Rich, which was, to me, growing up, I knew absolutely what the Labour Party was for. I knew absolutely what the Conservative Party was for. This will be music to your ears as the leader of the Reform Party. In the last few weeks, we've had more calls and more texts to this show saying, I voted for Boris Johnson, I didn't vote for the Green Party. I voted for Boris Johnson, I didn't vote for high taxation. I voted for Boris Johnson not to spend money that we haven't got. Keir Starmer missed, obviously, yesterday again because he had COVID for the 11th time. We just seem to be morphing into, I don't know, is it all about personality politics now? What's your take on this, Richard?
I think my real take on this, Jeremy, is that we've got a situation now where we've got the highest taxes for 70 years. We've got the highest state spending for about 60 years. And we've got the lowest growth forecasts also for about 60 years in the medium term. So it's a pretty gloomy position that we're in. And the Tories have completely forgotten what their original sort of raison d'etre is, which is low taxation, high growth, higher wages, and smart regulation. That's all gone.
Why have they forgotten that? Because they've got an 80-seat majority and it doesn't matter? Why have they forgotten that?
Because I think they've got a prime minister who he just gets away with salesmanship. And, the truth is, we all love a brilliant salesman, Jeremy, but we've all been overpromised and underdelivered by salesmen when we've bought services, bought goods, and we've been let down by them. And that's what's happened this time. We've got a salesman who just says what he wants to say to try and impress and sort of appease someone at the moment in hand. But it's no good. And I think people have seen him for what he is. The Chancellor's not strong enough to stand up to Boris. And I really do worry, Jeremy, this is taking us down a very bad, slippery slope to being a highly regulated, highly taxed, boring European social democracy. And we've not got many years, Jeremy. It's a bit like water going over a waterfall. Once it's gone too far, it's gone. You can't get it back.
This is the interesting thing for me. Whether they've just forgotten their promises or they've realised that the Labour Party is so weak and so lacking in any sort of threat that it doesn't matter that they're going to win the next election come what may. This should be, and let's have a really, because every time I speak to you, you inspire me the way you speak. But here's the reality, right? This should be music to your ears. But you and I know, because you've said it yourself, the Reform Party are not going to win the next general election. Can we ever get away from a system, and I'm being serious, whereby these two main parties have it locked up and done? And there was a guy on from Newcastle, and I've always said, if you don't vote, it's outrageous. But he said there's no point. I don't trust Boris Johnson. I'm not inspired by Keir Starmer. Anybody else I vote for is a waste of time. What do you genuinely say to that as the leader of the Reform Party, a party that, to a lot of people who listen to this radio station, makes sense?
Everybody should vote. Of course they could. You can't complain if you don't vote, frankly. Use your vote. That's what I say to everybody because, democracy is a precious thing. And at the end of the day, I'm an optimist. If you're in politics, Jeremy, you've got to be optimistic. That is for sure. And the more people that vote for Reform UK, the more we can shape and influence, the more we can change things, and the more we can worry and hopefully petrify the two main parties, because something has got to change. That is for sure. Because this is not, I just don't believe where we're heading is where the majority of the people of this country want to we can talk about energy, for example. I mean, that's the big issue facing people. How are people are going to pay our energy bills this winter and beyond? There was nothing in that in yesterday's budget. All we know, Jeremy, is that we are at the foothills of the cost mountain of Boris's absurd net zero policy that I call it net stupid. And what's interesting now, Jeremy, is actually people are suggesting, and I very much support this, I actually think we should have a referendum on Boris's net zero policy.
But that brings me to another thing. Whether are we going to get to a point? Did Boris Johnson got elected on Brexit? He also got elected because Jeremy Corbyn was a complete idiot, and nobody on that particular day, whatever anybody says, there weren't going to be a majority of people in the United Kingdom who thought that Jeremy Corbyn was up to being the Prime Minister. However, do you think, I mean, the conversation started, I know you weren't listening because you're doing something else, but we spoke to Clive Lewis, an MP in Norwich, spoke to Philip Davis, a Conservative, one Labour, one Conservative, and they both said we'll never get jobs in government or the shadow cabinet because we care about opinions, we want to have opinions on things, on issues, our constituents, all of those sorts of things. A lot of these MPs, three-line whip, you do what the bosses say, you vote in that way. Is politics, you call for a referendum about the green issue. I completely agree. If you think recently about Scotland, you think about Brexit, maybe there will come a point where we have more referendums. Is it referenda? Whatever it is.
Referenda, I think.
I think it probably is.
I would love that.
On the big issues. On the big issues, because
exactly.
Brexit was a cross-party thing, wasn't it? It was.
Correct. It's rather like what they do in Switzerland, Jeremy. And indeed, they have many more referendum in states in America. The big issues of the day, actually, yes, your elected politicians can say, we've looked at it in detail, this is what we recommend, but it's a big decision and everybody should get involved. And that comes back. Let's remember, in the Brexit referendum, the turnout was huge. Why? Because everybody knew every single vote counted equally. Whereas in some safe seats, if you're in a safe Tory seat, but you're a Labour voter, the truth is your vote basically is wasted and lost, or vice versa. In referenda, actually, it's the opposite. Every vote counts. And I think people would get much more engaged, feel much more enthused. And I think democracy would be in a better place. And so whether it's net zero, whether it's HS2...
You talk about democracy, and I'm with you. I'm with you that he seems to have sold, to me, what is traditional Tory values down the line. But I just... the truth of the matter is, if he's, abandoned the Tory doctrine of years gone by, if Starmer is, I think I can't have Keir Starmer, he's about as inspiring as a tea bag, right? Doesn't that leave the political field wide open for somebody like you, right? And I repeat the question, don't you find it, however, numbers of people might vote for Reform UK, it must be massively frustrating because everybody I speak to says, Richard Tice should be in the cabinet tomorrow. He speaks sense, but that's not going to happen, is it? It would happen, I suspect, if you join the Tory party. But you don't want to join the Tory party. So isn't that frustrating that people of talent or ability, or who are, if you like, banging the drum for what so many of us believe to be the right opinions, won't get anywhere near Westminster?
No, look, I'm an optimist, Jeremy, and I believe that change is possible. And I believe in the same way, look, if you want to win the lottery, you've got to buy a ticket. I don't buy a ticket. I don't expect to win it. But if you want to shape and influence, you've got to be on the ballot paper. And just remember, Jeremy, at the next general election, there'll only be 5 parties with 600 candidates on the ballot paper across the whole of the UK. And Reform UK will be there. And we will have distinct, completely different policies to the very similar policies that all the other parties are going to have. So actually, people can then say, well, yes, if I want low taxes, if I want zero waiting lists, and I want cheaper energy, there's only one place you can go.
So rather than I guess your job, if you like, the thing that you have to achieve in the next few years is to put Reform UK in people's minds, not as a protest vote, but actually as a vote for a real alternative, right?
Correct. Absolutely. And the thing is, though, what I say to people is that vote for what you believe in, not what you're afraid of. Because actually people like to do things which are positive, which are optimistic, which are forward-looking, not which are negative. No one likes to go to the pub and have a sort of a negative chat. Talk about things that, you think, okay, how do we make things better? How do we solve the problem, whatever it is that's bugging you? And so I think that what we're putting forward is bold solutions to the challenges that people face in their everyday lives. They really are very different.
And let's be
there's
honest.
No one else talking, Jeremy, about the zero waiting list, for example.
No, you're right. And let's be honest, Richard Tice, because I am a fan. I mean, you are a leader who gets things done. You didn't like the background, and it was changed for your interview instantly. Do you know what I'm saying? It was true. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. One final question. Do you think the budget will bite Sunak on the backside?
I think in 12 months' time, yes, it will, because I think I think we're seeing massive state spending. I think the growth forecasts are overly optimistic, and this was a sort of it's an early pre-election bribe. But the bottom line is, Jeremy, look, trust the people. Let the people spend their own money, rather than say, no, we civil servants are better spending your money on your behalf. You know it'll be wasted. They've been wasting billions already in the last couple of years, and they will continue to waste billions of your listeners' money, my money, everybody's money. And it's the wrong way to go about. Trust the people, let the people spend their own money.
You're a legend. Listen, always a pleasure to have you on. Richard Tice, leader of Reform UK.